Hello there, welcome aboard. One of the first ways a new president is able to exercise political power is through unilateral executive orders. While legislative efforts take time, a swipe of the pen from the presidency can often enact broad changes in government policy and practice. In the US, for instance, President Donald Trump has wasted little time in taking advantage of this privilege, given his predecessor's reliance on executive orders to circumvent Congress in the latter days of his presidency. He has a broad range of areas in which to flex his muscle. Probably his most controversial action so far taken to keep the country safe from terrorists, the president said, included suspension of refugee program for 120 days, indefinite ban on Syrian refugees, and ban on anyone arriving from 7 Muslim-majority countries with certain exceptions. The effect was felt at airports in the U.S. and around the world as people were stopped boarding U.S.-bound flights or held when they landed in the U.S. Enacted pretty much straight away, but there are battles. And in here to share their thoughts on the issue of executive orders and how significant is it to a president's legacy is Fidel Amachi-Wusu. He is an international relations analyst. In here is Kwame Danso Echampon. He is a journalist with Star FM. Also in the studio is Tay Kiche. He's a chief editor-in-chief of Radio Ghana, and I am Rebecca Iwa. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Fidel, tell us, when we talk about executive orders, what is it about and how significant is it to a president's legacy?
All right. Thank you very much, Becky, and then for this opportunity. First of all, the executive orders, or the giving of executive orders, is very central to the U.S. presidency. This started from 1789. President George Washington, the first U.S. president, actually gave executive orders, and it continued. The president that gave the highest was Franklin Roosevelt. He gave more than 3,000 of them. Very, very significant. And the reason is that, the U.S. Congress is a very strong arm of government as compared to other legislative arms in other states or other democracies. So mostly the president has to be given some leverage or some room to actually give some of these orders. For instance, not long ago, the U.S. Congress gave some powers to the president to be able to declare war before such declaration can be taken to Congress as a result of emergencies and things like that. Because then if U.S. is attacked, you wouldn't have to go to Congress for a debate before you respond. You have to actually put in some measures to respond to that. So executive orders actually facilitate the administration of leaders. It has however come with controversies, because then you give the order and then Congress is not in support. Either Senate or the House of Representatives will not be supporting that particular order. So, but then the president also has a veto to actually push through with the order so that it will facilitate some of his ideas. President Obama actually gave about 276 of them. And that is not unprecedented, because Clinton gave more than that and Bush gave more than that. Bush gave, I think, 291, and then Clinton over 300. Reagan gave more than Clinton. So the Obama example we are giving, I think we are overstretching it. It's just because he is the immediate past president of the United States. However, the fact remains that other U.S. presidents have used this privilege to actually advance their interest or to push their interest. And as I said, Franklin Roosevelt gave over 3,000.
But this has come with a lot of debate. Is it a form of competition or what? Because somebody gave more than you, you would also have to... because there's a debate around all these executive orders and people are complaining, should we still continue because one gave more than the other, so you follow the same or toe the same line?
Yeah. Now, you can see that with respect to President Trump, you realize that most of his policies are controversial. And it's likely, even though the Republicans have majority in Congress, it's likely to face some opposition. For instance, McCain, who is a very senior senator and once ran with Obama, that is Obama's first term in 2008, has opposed his policies. So he knows that if he takes some of these things to Congress, he will definitely not see the light of the day. These policies will not see the light of the day. So definitely he's going to use his executive powers to go through this. Now, in 1946, it gives them. I want to explain how broad these powers can be. You know, in 1946, the legislature gave some agencies under the presidency some powers to enact some laws. For instance, the Environmental Protection Agency, they gave them power to regulate pollution, environmental protection, and things like that. So then, if the president gives an executive order, since these institutions run under the presidency, he's able to manipulate and then get his way through. So this is some of how the things go. So the controversy that surrounds Trump's election and his policies will actually facilitate or will actually make him use the executive order to push his agenda rather than going to Congress.
Tay, let me come to you. Executive orders, let's put it side by side to Ghana. Can it hold in Ghana as far as our governance system is concerned?
Oh, so far, I've not seen the use of any executive order per se in Ghana, because I think our constitution is a bit different from that of the US. Our president is an executive president. We claim he has too many powers, but I don't think executive powers as per the US situation pertains here. I don't believe that.
Okay. But there are people who have complained about the constitutionality of President Trump's orders. Did it come to you as a surprise in the first place?
Well, after listening to President Donald Trump campaign as then candidate Trump, listening to his views on terrorism, on Islam, and his quest to ensure that the Americans are safe, I'm not surprised. And I really expect more. Yes, because when you listen to him, he's someone who might have also looked at the feeling of his people. One, even though America is the land of opportunities, of late they've come to realize that allowing everybody and anybody into their country is not serving a good purpose. And so any country faced with that will support any leader who would go about his office as to protect them, protect jobs, and make them secure. So I'm not surprised. I expect worse.
But saying that, you know, America is not an island on its own. There are bilateral relations, there are trade relations, there are even family ties. People have married elsewhere on the continent and all of that. Let me take Kwame's thought. Kwame.
Yes.
Yeah. Were you surprised when you had that banger came?
Before I go into, you know, whether I was surprised or not from Donald Trump, I want to ask for some education when you asked about some executive orders in respect to Ghana in our situation. I just want to find out from you. Just about a few weeks ago, we heard the president, you know, sending troops to Gambia, and of course, concerns were raised why it was not taken through Parliament. Before that, the former President John Mahama ordered for the release of some Muntie 3, and you know there were also concerns, especially when they had just been sentenced by the Supreme Court and stuff like that. And again, the acceptance of the Gate Mutu, you recall, those were all concerns that were raised about issues that potentially should have gone through Parliament. Okay, and so maybe the fact that we didn't get so much brouhaha about those instances is because they were not as cranky as Donald's own has been. But to your question, I wasn't surprised when Donald started all those things, because those were the very reasons why he campaigned. Those were his messages. Everything Donald had said, mind you, Donald had made 17 executive orders so far. The last time I checked, 17 of them. And every little one of them was something he campaigned on. They were his messages. They were the basis and the foundation of his campaign messages. So if I told you when you vote for me, excuse my language, I'll shoot every American once per day, and you voted for me regardless, and I'm doing it, why must you complain? Those are the reasons why he campaigned. He said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to limit the entry of foreigners into our country. I'm going to do this. His stance against Muslims did not change throughout the election year. In spite of the condemnation, Obama said he was the single most uniquely unqualified candidate to ever contest the presidency. and yet Americans went for him. So they should just keep quiet and endure it. That's what he campaigned for. Yeah.
But they keeping quiet. It borders on other countries because when America sneezes, great, the world catches cold. So once it borders on them, they are enduring it. But it's not everybody who is enduring it. There have been protests. There have been lawyers who have challenged the constitutionality of what Donald Trump has done, President Donald Trump has done. And there are battles ahead. People are challenging it. So, yeah.
See, I think that I do not like, as an individual, as a human rights, person, somebody who believes in human rights, I do not support the least the stance and especially on the travel ban by President Trump. I do not support it at all. But let's be honest, I think mainstream media has also blown the thing out of proportion. Look, there are about 40 Muslim countries that are not covered by this ban. There are just 7. Cameroon, Morocco is a Muslim country, the Gambia, so many other Muslim countries. Saudi Arabia, a major Islamic country, but it was not covered by the ban. It was 7. When you look at the history of America, he may, based on the national security briefing he has received, have legitimate reasons why he feels that these 7 should be stopped from coming to America for now. I do not agree with him because I know that there are people who have contributed immensely to the cause of America who are from these nations, many of them. But yet, he decided that, okay, let's reduce entry of these 7 to America. He may have reasons, he may not. I disagree with him, but those are what they voted for. It is just 7. It is not every other Islamic country that has been banned. Let's get that thing straight. About 40 other Islamic countries have not been covered in this ban, and that's the truth.
Right.
My question is, why these particular?
Yes, that is what I was coming to. Why these particular? Yeah.
Because when
and why 120 days? After that 120 days, what next?
What next? You see, these 7 countries, if you look at their profile, per 9/11, were not actually involved in that. And 9/11 was the singular most devastating attack on the U.S. by a gang of terrorists. There were people from Saudi Arabia, there were Egyptians, there were people from other Islamic countries. You understand? Why is it that those countries are not covered in this, and only these 7? You see, and it makes some of us think that it could be a vendetta on some of them for their policies against America. Iran, for example. Iran has stood up to America over the years. Mind you, after the Shah was overthrown, it was Iran that held Americans hostage. It has never happened that much before. Even in Vietnam, it never did. The Americans couldn't rescue them. They had to negotiate the release of these people, and much to their discomfort. Because of that, President Carter, I believe, lost the presidency.
Yeah.
You understand? So I don't see my way very clear about the choice of these 7 countries, and I think if the Americans are going to reduce or eliminate terrorism in their country, they must look for other options than this one.
I know Kwame thinks otherwise. That is whether it is to there are some who actually believe that is an attempt on religious segregation and all of that on Muslims, for example. But Kwame thinks otherwise. Fidel, do you think same?
You see, I see the policy as a very cheap policy. Why am I saying that? As my senior colleague said, you cannot understand why Bin Laden was from Saudi Arabia. Mohammed Atta, the person who led the ring that used the plane to attack World Trade Center, Pentagon, and other places, was from Egypt. So why do you leave these countries and then take on Iran, Yemen, Sudan, Libya, Syria, and Somalia? Why would you do that? Now, this has come at a cost to the United States. For instance, after the sanctions were lifted, Obama tried to reach, after so many years or decades of US-Iran tensions, Obama tried to reach some deal with them some 2 years, 1 year ago. Now, sanctions were lifted from Iran. And Iran now is open to the international market. And they are ordering several Boeing airplanes from the United States. That will be about $20 billion. Because of this ban, Iran is withdrawing that, so that they will now go to France to get Airbus. So at the end of the day, have you not cost jobs in the United States as a result of your actions? Now, look at people who support the U.S. Army in countries like Iraq, you see, in fighting terrorism. Now, these individuals are at risk because sometimes you support the U.S. Army, and after they had left, you have to protect your family because the terrorists are there and they will come after you. So, what reason are these people going to have to support further U.S. actions or military operations in these countries? So it comes at a cost.
And someone will say it's early days yet. After all, he says it's 120 days.
It's actually 90 days.
90 days,
yeah,
okay.
90 days. The 120 is for the refugees.
Okay, so for the, yeah.
So the other one is 90 days. So after 90 days, that's why it is cheap. You understand? So no, but my brother here said that it's in he promised it and he's doing it. But after 90 days, what next? Is it going to be permanent? If it is not going to be permanent, why the ban in the first place? Because people are already dying. People who needed medical care in the United States had to be stopped. And one 70-year-old, over 70-year-old woman has already passed. Is that what US stands for?
No, but there are excesses to every actions you take. I do recall that there are instances where former President Obama took actions that there were also brouhaha and public reactions in this manner. As I said, I do not support what Donald Trump, the president, is doing, of the United States, is doing. But the fact is that you cannot take his executive authority from him. Yeah. He reserves the right. If you don't agree with him, go to court like others have done. The man said, if I won this election, these are the things I'm going to do. And you voted for him regardless. He's come to office. He's doing what he's doing. I feel, yes, 17 executive orders in just less than 2 weeks is far too much. Absolutely. But still, I'm sure he has a plan. Okay? He didn't ban every Islamic country. He's just serving out of the lot. So give him space. Let the U.S. Constitution, the law,
maybe the wheels are grinding slowly. You can't predict President Trump. Well, maybe the wheels are grinding slowly. He would want to.
That I was making. If you check the trends in America, the economic trends in America, it is not reflective so much of the damage he supposedly is causing. It's not too. Maybe with time we can get what he's doing, but it's condemnable, especially the fact that even people with legitimate papers are being stopped in other airports. The fact that he is not being responsive to the cries in the American airports and all the demonstrations that are going on. But I feel that he has so many years to prove whether there's an objective to what he's doing or not. Allow him space to operate. He's the president. He just came to office. He signed 17 so far.
13 days
just allow him to do what he has to do, and then let posterity judge him.
But right. See, there's other thing. Trump was voted by the system and not by the people. What we know that he should know that majority of the people did not vote for him. Majority in Nigeria.
No. So you will come back to continue that debate. Let me go for a quick break.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the majority are not with him. He should be careful. You understand? Because when you are president and then the majority do not vote for you, mostly your actions, which for instance, that actually limited some of the actions you could take. That look, I don't really have the majority. I was a minority president, so I have to act to actually sue certain people. So he will, carrots and sticks. Where he wanted to use the stick, he used it, and where there are carrots to give to the majority, he did it. So he should just.
All right. So this debate continues shortly. It is the Reporters Roundtable. You can get interactive with us. Send us that text on 02444754422. You can send us that text or you can follow us. Click through our Facebook page, Reporters Roundtable. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Please send us. We are right here. We'll read it on your behalf because we ask the weightier questions on your behalf. We are back shortly. Stay with us.
And I am a reporter. In 2012, I covered the elections extensively, but I never got an opportunity to tell you the stories behind the stories. This time around, there's a Reporters Roundtable where I, together with some of my colleagues, will be telling you the stories behind the stories.
Watch Reporters Roundtable and get in touch with some of the best brains in the field of journalism. It's a good program. All the best.
My name is Rebecca. Keep watching the Reporters Roundtable with GBC24 this and every other Thursday. All right, welcome back to the program. Here we afford those in the Inky fraternity the opportunity to give their take on issues around the world. And I have been joined by the head of the political desk of Joy FM, Evans Mensah. Welcome, Evans.
Thank you very much.
Evans, let me take your thoughts on what do you make of the executive orders by President Donald Trump?
Well, I think he said he would do it. People, the Americans voted for him because of these things that he said he would do. I don't see why people are complaining. I was in the U.S. to cover the elections, and when he was campaigning, these are the things he promised that he was going to deliver. He said he was going to ban Muslims. In fact, what he has actually implemented now is a watered-down version of what he promised in the campaign. It was an outright ban of Muslims into the country. It was a huge controversy surrounding that campaign promise he made. What he's done essentially now is to select a few countries, Muslim majority, and say, you can come into the country for 90 days. So that's a hugely watered-down version of what he had said he would do initially. He said he's going to build a wall. He signed an executive order to build a wall. He said he's going to get Mexico to pay for it. He's finding ways to do that. In fact, he's going to tax, Mexican imports into the U.S. and then use that money to build a wall. So he's somehow finding a way to make that a reality. What again did he say? Some very outrageous things he said on the campaign platform.
Should be
Exactly. This is exactly what he's doing since he's come to power, and the speed at which he's done it is just Trump. The people who put him there expect him to implement these policies. The people who voted against him, and people shouldn't forget, the majority of Americans voted against him in elections. The minority won the day. The minority took him to the White House. The minority took him to the White House. The majority voted against him. That is why I guess we're seeing the protests that we've seen across the country. Because the truth is, he lost the popular vote. Clinton beat him by the last count, almost 2 million. That's a huge, number of people to vote against him. He won the electoral college vote with a slight minority. Okay, that is what we are seeing. That is what we are seeing, all this protest against it. But the American system is what it is. So if you voted for him based on these promises he made in elections and he's implementing them, I simply don't see the big deal. For the rest of the world, of course, we didn't vote for him, and he said it. He's going to run a government based on America first. You can't argue with him on that. Why should America being everybody's business? In the past, we've criticized America for being the world's police. Something's happening somewhere in the world and they jump in, parachuting and solve the problem and get out. He says, I'm going to focus on America. Why is the world complaining, by the way? I mean, why is the world complaining? They're a sovereign country. I mean, we've grown used to America being the most powerful, most wealthy, and so they should take care of all our business. Europe is complaining more than most. The German Chancellor had called him last week and gave him a lecture on the Geneva Convention that you have to open your doors for refugees. That's fantastic. They sign up to it, of course, so they have to allow people in. He's not saying they're going to allow people into the country. He says he's going to reduce the number of people. Obama had pegged it at a cap of 100,000. He says, I'm going to reduce it to 50,000. I'm going to make the vetting process stricter. Of course, it's going to limit people coming in. Europe is complaining. Well, Europe benefited from America in the Marshall Plan. Billions of US dollars went to Europe to rebuild. In fact, Europe largely is what it is today because of American benevolence. The taxpayers paid for it. They are still paying hugely for Europe's own security in NATO. The man says, I can't continue to do that. Whilst we have big things to deal with back home in America, and so I'm going to hold back. Then Europe says, you can't do that. We're worried about that. Europe has allowed all these, refuge for all these Syrians, etc., coming in. We've seen what's happened in Europe. The terrorism that is happening in France, in Germany, in all those places. He says, I want to be ahead of the curve when it comes to these terrorist groups. Europe is suffering. I mean, we remember what happened over New Year. People were raped, I think, in Germany or Berlin or wherever it is. And it turns out a lot of the people who did the raping and groping, etc., were refugees who are coming. He's looked at all that and he said, Europe is in a mess. Why should I do same? Why should I follow that same path? So for me, when I look at it really, I'm like, the man said he would do something. He told us he was going to do it. He's doing it. Why are we surprised?
No, but we didn't anticipate this early.
I'm saying what he has done is a watered-down version of what he had promised to do during the campaign. So why are we surprised that he's doing it? Yes, he's done it very quickly without consulting even his own people, his own appointees had no clue. That is how come the implementation of the ban from the 7 Muslim, majority countries have become such a mess at the borders. That is Trump. That's how he's a chaos. It was a chaos candidate. He's been a chaos president so far. But the Americans knew what they were bargaining for. That he doesn't consult. He's his own man. At one point in the campaign elections, they had to stop him from going on Twitter. They, in fact, restricted him physically from going on. Had to speak to Twitter and say, don't allow him. When he posts, don't put it out there. Because they knew him. Obama said, used it against him and said, if you can't trust him to tweet, how can you trust him with the nuclear code? So that is him. So we are not getting anything from what we bargained for. In fact, he's keeping his campaign promises. I think we should just
screaming because we are so accustomed to politicians not living up to their promises. Exactly. If there's anything you can praise Trump for, it's living his attitude. Yeah. Everything he said he was going to do. I mean, it's not strange if you have studied who he was as a candidate, who he was as president-elect, or what he's doing now as president. Every little thing he said he was going to do, he's doing it now. Except that maybe the frequency at which he's doing it. He's signing almost everything that has to be signed.
Let me bring you into
his administration. Okay. Immigration is a major issue. It was a major issue, even in the various debates that they had. It was a major issue, and for him to have come to office and be, reluctant to implementing what he said he was going to do, will be deceiving the people. He said, "I'm going to do this," and as Ivan said, this is perhaps a very, very watered down, approach to what he said he was going to do. So they should just allow him to do what he has to do.
I was thinking because, the nature of their governance system, I think the people did not anticipate it would be this early because they knew it will go through some form of...
I don't think so. Don't forget, America is a country of immigrants. And it will continue to be a country of immigrants beyond Donald Trump. So the immigrant factor is now playing out. You see signs, or let's say placards. We are all immigrants, and it tells a lot. It tells you a lot if you know much about American history.
He's married to an immigrant. He's married to an immigrant.
Exactly, he's married to an immigrant. You understand? Look at the ships that set sail from Europe to America. You understand? And they started that settlement of Europeans that has grown into what all manner of nationalities are in America. So definitely, immigrants or people with of immigrant origin in America will feel threatened somehow. You see, but the thing is that Donald Trump is the president of America, and he will put out policies and programs that will benefit his people. You understand? And he's been someone who's been saying, look, my people first. He's been talking about jobs. He won't allow the Chinese to take jobs away from Americans and all that. You see, so it's early days yet. Let's give him time.
Maybe the rest of us are crying
No,
because
you see,
we feel that he may be taking
you see,
decisions that may eventually
Exactly.
affect us.
Yes.
No.
So it's a preemptive kind of
yeah,
model
let's
that
let's
we
get this
appear to
clear.
have.
Factor.
What Ivan said about watering down his policies, that is what makes him dangerous. You see, you talk of a war between America and Mexico, broken, literally doing so, and then you didn't know how to fund it. It makes you dangerous. It makes you look clueless. No, let's see. Then you say, I'll charge 20% tax on Mexican imports. Then, by the close of day, you withdraw all what you said. That, oh, well, I said that, but then I'll just, it means it's all about giving orders, but not the details. So, yesterday, David Seuss, the political science expert, he said, but who is building it? There's no money.
No,
that's what David Seuss said.
No, but he's already instructed. He's already instructed.
It's not the instruction. It's the funding.
No.
Instruction will not build a wall.
He's created a funding for it.
Where is that
For
funding?
example,
There's no funding.
America.
As of now, there's no funding.
No, there is.
There's no.
America gives a lot of aid.
There's no
to
funding.
Mexico.
There's no funding.
He
What
said-
I know
he
is
said
they
there's
have
no funding.
$100 million. They are looking
There's no
for
funding.
about is it $500
That's what
billion
This
in
is what he
addition.
has said.
Where
This
is
is
that?
what he
Where is
instructed
that?
the agencies, the U.S. agencies, to do. America gives a lot of funding in aid to Mexico. He says that funding we use. If I give an assessment of how much we give to Mexico a year, take that and use to build a wall. If that is not enough, then what he talked about, the 20% will
That
come.
was withdrawn, and then he's even saying
he's finding ways of
son-in-law
doing it.
to go to Mexico to actually water down things because it was causing a lot of problems. They realized that the kind of production that America, the consumption from Mexico, if Mexico is trying to would also retaliate, it is going to be in the short term is going to affect them so much. Yeah, so I think his actions, and let's put this in historical context. You see, America has now become an imperial state. You understand? Ever since 1945, they've taken over the world. Literally, they have bases everywhere.
That's what
now
Trump
in the
was
short time. In the short term, you cannot just cut this with this within your first 100 days in office. You cannot do that. And see, someone said, I'm not going to. No, you can't do that. Someone says, no. You see, the system is overwhelming. Someone says, I'm going to cut down military expenditure, and then the person is also saying that the American military is in tatters. And military now has a $13 billion aircraft carrier, new one, a new destroyer, and other like the F-35. That is the most expensive fighter jet project ever pursued. But then you come out to say the American military is in tatters, and then you want to expand the military. Yet you are not going to support other states. You want to fight terrorism. Say you eradicate radical Islamist, whatever. Then you say, no, I'm not going to support other states. If you are not supporting Pakistan, how do you fight terrorism? If you are not supporting the Afghan government, how do you fight terrorism? If you are not supporting Yemen and other states like Saudi Arabia and Jordan, how do you fight terrorism? So some of his statements, sometimes we try to understand more than he understands himself. That's what I think. Yeah, we understand him more than he understands himself. No, that is it. Because whenever he passes it's populist, it's appealing, but then when you go into the details, you realize that he's a little bit not on top of issues. And I learned yesterday that some of his generals that he appointed, especially the Secretary of Defense, is now uncomfortable about the way he's going about things. And it's a call for concern. When soldiers are becoming concerned.
But should we see this as a blanket ban? How should the world, let's say for instance Ghana, even African countries, how do we view this from our own lenses? Does it serve as a wake up? Yeah, his policies and all of that.
Definitely, if I were an immigrant in America right now, I'd be worried because of what is unfolding.
How about wanting to travel to America?
Well, I would travel to America legitimately. You understand me? I've been there a lot of times. You understand? And so definitely when I'm going to America, I wouldn't be going to America in that kind of, let me use the Alukuzan way. No, you know, those who go enter the US illegally and who are in the majority are very worried people. Because if you have a brother in America who went to the World Cup in Brazil, was able to sneak through into America, he's without papers. Such a brother or sister must be a worried person by now.
Yeah.
because from the way things are going, a time will come, Trump will say, okay, let's check out businesses. You know, if they come there and you don't have papers, you'll be deported. You know, people go abroad and they use the names of residents to work. And you are called Kojo Mensah back home in Ghana. And then they call another name. And you've even forgotten that you are not that name. So you'll be there. And the person who can supervise is like, are you not so and so? Before, you know, you realize, oh, that was the card I was given. It's all these funny things. People who use such things to get by in America will be worried. Definitely, by now. You know, I mean, every president is desirous of protecting the interest of his country, men and women. You know, and I think over the years, the Americans have spent a lot of money on other countries. Maybe he's the kind of president who thinks it's about time we look at our own and not forget about what is going on in the world, but limit our interference and involvement.
But they are at the expense of WTOs, and most of the time, America,
when it comes to the
America spearheads most of the
chief advocate.
Yeah, they are the chief advocates.
One thing we should also not forget is that this, you know, so-called interference of America in other nations, that is what, you know, generated all this animosity towards America.
Exactly.
Okay, coming to interfere in this state, doing, you know, internal affairs of state, then he will come in there, create problems, and, you know, the allegations that they come in there and take your resources and stuff like that. So this guy says, I'm taking America out of those internal territorial problems and engagement. Let us Americanize America for ourselves. What is the problem?
That's it.
Do you understand? I'm no longer going to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries so that people don't grow angry at America again. Let us concentrate and be in our lane, so to speak. And that's what he is doing. I don't see why that, again, should become a problem. When Obama and those who believed in Obama's principle were in office, there was a situation where every other nation had America breathing over them as a senior brother. And so they know that, you know, eventually you run to America when you run into trouble. So then people on the other side will say, oh, America is interfering in our issues, let's attack them. So in the Arab countries, some people who felt aggrieved felt that, okay, the best way is to go after America, let them stay off our affairs. This guy says, okay, I'm taking America off your affairs. Let us think about ourselves internally. Let's think of how to build our systems, make them robust. Let's share money in our system before we think of other people. Why should the world cry? We all cry in our states that America is taking over our internal affairs. Now he says, let's concentrate on our space. What's the big deal?
Yeah, it is.
Let me bring Evans in here. Evans, should Africa be worried?
Well, right now, the thing about Trump when he was campaigning, there was almost zero policy proposals from his camp on Africa. So it's very difficult to make a categorical statement on it. But the way he's going, he doesn't seem to be somebody who he doesn't even care about Europe. Why would he care about Africa? You know what I mean? I mean, because he hasn't said anything about Africa, but you could see the way he's dealing with his closest allies. His closest allies, Canada border, right? You could see the Canadian, you know, the Prime Minister taking a stance against him. Sadly, not actually mentioning him by name, but saying you're welcome if you're stranded in America. It tells you that he's already, you know, positioning himself. He's already running with a lot of the leaders in Europe already. So you could say to yourself, if you can do that to Europe, you can do that to Canada, what can't you do to Africa? I mean, we know we are not even on the radar. You know what I mean? So that's to that extent you could say, yeah, we should be concerned because we get a lot from America. Yeah. In terms of aid, in terms of support, etc., etc. I mean, I remember when the Gitmo 2 country was raging last year, when the president did a press conference and spoke to the journalists. He was talking about how America was helping us. Then there was a lot of terrorism fears surrounding West Africa and how Ghana might become a victim of, because there had been an attack in Mali, in Burkina Faso, etc. We're all concerned. And the president said America was helping us, you know, deal with those terrorism, you know, fears and protecting our borders, sharing intelligence, etc., etc. The question is whether that help that we've got from America will stop under Trump. I don't know yet. The last time I was speaking to a friend from the U.S. Embassy, the thinking was that the policy will not change. it will be maintained at what it is. But because it's Trump, he has to deal with all these American things before he even think about Europe and think about Africa. I mean, by the time we are so down the list, I think we shouldn't expect anything from America under Trump. I mean, I think we should just. For me, I'm happy because we've become over-reliant on these so-called rich countries. They are rich. We become over-reliant on that to the neglect of what we can do for ourselves. So maybe this is a time for us to look inward. And I guess the signs that we saw from ECOWAS in the case of Gambia is a clear example that we can do it if we really are united. And so we should stop looking to America because forget it, we're not going to get anything from America under Trump. So we should stop looking we should start looking inwards, and maybe that's the way to go for us.
Fidel, do you agree with Evans?
Yes, I agree with him that we have to look inwards. That I think that every state must be responsible, and Africa is about time that we become more responsible. More, we vote for leaders who are reasonable to manage our resources for us, so that we all benefit. Now, my problem with what Evans said is about the fight against terrorism in Africa. U.S. is having an installation in Burkina Faso. They cooperate with Gambia. Niger, they are planning to have a very big base in Niger. I know of Ethiopia, where they have drone runways in Ethiopia and Somalia and other places in East Africa, Kenya and other places. They need these countries to fight terrorism. And we see how terrorism is growing in the Sahel region in Africa. So if Trump, per what he said about eradicating radicalism, Islamic radicalism in Africa or in the world, he's going to really go by that, then definitely he's supposed to support African countries who help him to go through that. Now, with the economic factors, I think that we shouldn't just do away with him. Because I think that he wants the U.S., that is protect U.S. jobs, enforce domestic policies that will benefit the United States. By so doing, no state is independent on its own. We must trade with others. So we must, I think we must get psychologists and people who will study how you go about things, try to get good deals with him. Because definitely there are rare metals, we have resources, natural resources that can, if you really want to fuel the American economy, that he will need to do so. So I think we should position ourselves strategically so that we can also benefit from the United States, because we cannot go. That's the largest economy we have in the world, and we cannot just ignore.
So we have been seeing Donald Trump is taking the U.S. out of the UN. That's how people are behaving. As if Donald
the way he's going.
Hold on. It's as if Donald is taking the U.S. out of the UN. Donald is taking the U.S. out of any business relationship or engagement they have with every other country. That's not what he's doing. What he's essentially doing is that in every trade arrangement we go, the U.S. position will be protected. Our interest should come first. In the past, where the U.S. was like the senior most brother that you go to, they are so rich that they didn't really care what engagement you have with them. They want to protect you, so let's manage them, let's treat them as young people that are now growing. That's not what he's doing now. He's not going to pamper anybody again. And I think that if all other countries, especially in Africa,
do they just protect you, or they protect you because they have an interest too?
Well, we should prove really that in every other thing they have done on the continent, they have an interest. There are many cases that plainly people are being messy and they come to help the situation. There are many cases. Of course, there are instances that you could give the example to them taking stuff or seeking their interest. But in many other cases where they provide security and stuff, it is purely because we as a people, especially in Africa, have refused to understand and respect our boundaries. And they come in to ensure some civility and order. Do you understand? When we need them to do that, we don't accuse them. But when they take something, then we are crying. But when they come and ensure that things are done properly, then we are quiet and enjoy it. What he's doing, if every other African country can go to the table protecting the interest of itself and its people, we'll be better people. We'll be better. Really. Because he's telling you that coming to the table thinking about your nation first. Because I am thinking of mine first. And we shouldn't go playing around and seeking that, okay, let's step aside and see somebody as a big brother and let him do what he has to do. Let's go defending individual positions and protecting our countries, and we're better off. That's what he's doing.
You see, it's going to be difficult for him because you see, the world economic system in the 50s is not the same as we have now. Now we're talking globalization, and globalization has its positives and negatives. For the U.S. to withdraw from, let's say, the WTO or do things that go against the tenets of the WTO will hurt America itself. Mind you, look at China. The economy of China is growing, and the influence of China economically is growing as well. And China is gradually becoming the #1 rival to the US and not even Russia. You understand? So somewhere along the line, Donald Trump and his administration will have to do a rethink. I believe so. I believe in the future they will have to do a rethink, because they cannot protect, America cannot protect itself from terrorism on her own. Mind you, NATO, the EU, even the the American trade something in that sphere, they share information. And per what America has done over the years, interventionist policies and all that, especially in the Muslim world, has brought about all this focus on America. Let's hurt them because they hurt us. And you cannot protect yourself that way on your own. You need the input of other countries to be safe. So these are early days yet. You know, going forward, I believe things might change. America might not get involved too much, but it will have to cooperate with certain countries and certain institutions to make itself safe. They cannot detach themselves from the rest of the world like that. There might be policies that will ensure that America takes care of itself, but to be protectionist and to be isolationist will be very difficult. It's not going to be easy.
That brings me to you, Evans. You know, is America not opening up itself as a major target for Islamic extremists?
Well, that could be one of those, you know, unintended consequences of what he's doing. In other words, the ban on, you know, these Muslim majority countries for 90 days could become good propaganda material for the ISIS of this world, for the Al-Qaeda of this world, who say, yeah, we told you so, that America never liked people from these countries, and this is evidence of that playing out, and it will just galvanize a bit more of the base of the terrorists. Remember that ISIS has been recruiting on the internet, and they're looking for people who feel aggrieved at what America is doing. What we've seen over the last few days are people who legitimately have papers to enter the U.S. being denied access. There were hundreds of people in the air when he signed that executive order who were detained at the airport when they landed. You left Iran on your way to U.S. and a paper was signed whilst you were in the air. You landed and you were detained. I mean, these people have families back home who will be looking up to them, who probably rely on them to survive. Their inability to do that. I mean, I've seen and watched professors on CNN and networks who can't enter the U.S. anymore because of the ban that was written. They've subsequently tried to amend that a bit, but lives would have been affected already. People who worked for, and for me, this is the biggest fear. There are people in Iraq who had worked for the U.S. military, who had sacrificed everything, risked their lives and their lives of their families to work for the U.S. government, work for the U.S. military, some of them as interpreters. But over the years, worked through the system to get legitimate documents to enter the U.S., who now, because of what he had done, can no longer enter the U.S., in spite of all the sacrifices they've done. Because even you're in Iraq and you work for the U.S., you already a moving target. Everybody wants to kill you because they see you as an infidel. You betrayed your own kind against a foreign dictator, as they've always perceived America to be. And all of a sudden, this guy can no longer enter the U.S. or has challenges entering the U.S. Those who had told him don't do it will say, we told you so. And it will all it will do is to galvanize people like that, their families, and say, well, we've had it. Let's join the terrorists, the Al-Qaedas of this world, the Talibans of this world, and let's show America that we are still there.
But
so that's a huge risk.
Let me ask a question. If you are not, I'm asking the question based on the analysis you are giving. It's not because of anything. But if you are not inherently, a believer of that principle, and you are in somebody's country, and the person says, don't come here again because I don't really want you here again, why should your approach to fighting that stance be that let's join to attack them?
I don't think it's about the individuals who have been affected. It's about how that will resonate back home for those who depend on him. Okay, so you have an extended family. If you watch we heard all these stories about terrorism. Sometimes it's an extended family of people who are a whole network of people are relying on this individual who has gone into America. And all of a sudden he can't go. Money is not coming back home. Poverty is a huge enabler for terrorism. I mean, they're exploiting all these guys in Iraq and Iran and Syria who are poor, young people who are poor. They bring into their fold and they want to protect you. They want to give you money to survive. Those people who can no longer benefit from the benevolence America had extended to some of these family members will now become very easy targets for the terrorists to recruit. That's the point I'm making. And people, and again, around the world, people have been recruited from Europe, right? Those who are being recruited from Europe, who are educated, they are very wealthy, they have families who are taking care of them.
And those who have no motivation at all.
Now will have a motivation. They'll listen.
They'll
look at it and
say, a Donald Trump approach. You didn't have a Donald Trump instance to motivate you then to become whatever you were then. I do not see how. Yes,
now you have a motivation. There are people who are probably in the past were almost on the verge of joining, who had been convinced and said, "Oh, America is now being warm to us." Now they're seeing animosity. And then they'll say, now there's no reason anymore not to join. Let's join and fight the infidel. Because Trump is becoming the biggest infidel ever in recent U.S. history. Look at what Bush, the last Bush, in between 2000 and 2009. What he did when he launched the, war against terror after 9/11. It only served to galvanize the base. And most people trace, Islamic State, ISIS. Their roots started from there. They started going quietly.
That's right.
Obviously, the Syrian war gave them the life to blossom, but it's been there for a while because of all the things that Bush was doing. They will see Trump as now pouring water onto that time. We might see some other terrorist groups. For me, that's a fear. There's nothing to do, but it just
even before
it's a platform for
even before Trump came,
platform
America had always been a target. Hold on, even before Trump came, America has always been a target. Okay, recently in Ivory Coast, where American citizens were, they were a target for an attack. Okay, so wherever they have been a target. And the understanding was that it was because they are interfering in other people's countries and other internal affairs of other states. Okay, so that's a baseline. They have always been a target. They are not going to start being targets now because Trump is taking some decisions. America, by default, for some reasons, has become a target for no reason that anybody can pinpoint to. Now somebody comes into office and says, the reasons why we appeared to have become targets for every other attacker is because they claim we are, interfering in their affairs. I'm taking that interest, that stance out of that, dispensation. I'm not going to interfere in other people's affairs again. Then that also becomes a bigger problem than the initial problem was. Do you understand me?
Right.
So that's the way
I will come back and Tay and Fidel, I'll come back and take your thoughts on whether America is now an anti-Islamic country. I'll come back shortly. It is still the Reporters Roundtable. We have some of your messages in here. We'll go for a quick breather, and when we come back, I'll let the world know what you have sent us.
Journalism is dynamic, and as part of our responsibility, we are supposed to go out there, fish for information for the public. Today in Ghana, it is our duty to ensure that the masses know what is going on in society. Reporters Roundtable is a program that you can get all these things. Watch Reporters Roundtable with Rebecca Iwa this and every Thursday.
Right, welcome back to the program. It's still the Reporters Roundtable where we tackle the issues from all angles and from all sides. I have some of your messages here. This one says, please, U.S. is not able to differentiate between extremists and Muslims, because not all Muslims are extremists. Well, you did add your name. Okay. My name is Joe. Did he say something about Ghana and also what he has for us? Donald Trump hasn't touched on Africa at all yet. We are still looking forward to what he will say. This one says, U.S. has built their country up and no longer need people of color and only needs the resources of Africa, and African countries are now being... and countries are... this is racism at all costs. Africans should stay home, edify themselves, modernize and build their countries up for posterity. This one, you just added a refrigeration engineer. Your name, we didn't have your name. Okay. Let me take this one. Also, this one says, congrats. Congrats. You've done well by touching on this story. I guess the bribery issue is Ghana has been well exhausted. It's good you touched on Donald Trump and what his policy will be for Africa. We didn't get your name, but let me get Tay and Fidel. We didn't get your take on whether the U.S. has become an anti-Islamic country. Has it?
I don't think it has become anti-Islamic. I mean, to be honest, to take it that way. What the U.S. is against is Islamic extremism. Okay. And not all Muslims are extremists. A vast majority of Muslims are peace-loving people. But to some extent, it is American policy which has radicalized sections of the Muslim population to see America as an enemy. And they are using religious teachings and thinking to influence people to act. You understand? So I personally believe that opening up world economic systems, trade systems, making everything as fair as possible would neutralize such people. Making things tighter, as Ivan said, would only serve to make them more radical, give them the power to influence more people and put America out there as the enemy. You understand? I would not be surprised if there will be more jihads in Donald Trump's time. I wouldn't be surprised.
You know, you were saying it is a platform to recruit more people.
Yeah. Yes, and even before that, Evans was talking about American interest, that Trump is seen to protect American interests.
Is it Evans or Kwame?
I mean,
Kwame.
Ernest, yeah. What we must know is that Americans have always protected their interests, and every U.S. president has done that. For instance, AGOA, Africa Growth Opportunities Act, that was given to Africa.
Okay, not to cut you, Fidel. I think we have someone on the line. Dr. H.A. Sikanko. Hello, Doc.
Hi.
Yeah, good to have you on the program.
My pleasure to be on your program. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love you to share your thoughts with us. What do you make of the executive orders by President Donald Trump?
Well, I think that Donald Trump has acted or is acting exactly how he promised to act. He has issued several orders in different respects. The most recent one being the travel ban, and its reverberations and repercussions are being felt all across the world. It is no different from the person that we know him to be. He is somebody who is interested in approaching terror, the fight against terror, trade, and domestic issues from a very radical, a very contrarian approach. And so I think that is exactly what we're seeing, something that is out of the box, out of the ordinary, and everybody's cutting. Actually get up to speed with it about it.
But moving forward, how should African or African countries look at the U.S.? Do we rely on them as we used to? Should we?
I don't think we at any point in time at all should really rely on any country for that matter. Yes, the world is becoming a global village, It's important for us to trade and to keep our international relationship with our neighbors here in Africa and in other parts of the world. But I do not think that at any point in time it should extend to the level of reliance on any country whatsoever. The U.S. continues to be a major power in the world power. Maybe the three last remains superpower. So it's understandable the kind of position and picture that it has on the international spectrum. But be that as it may, I do not think that we should rely on the U.S. or anything else. We should come to the table as partners, in areas that will be of mutual benefit to both countries.
But having studied in the U.S., do you foresee that this move will actually make Americans elsewhere on the continent very vulnerable?
I'm sorry, will this move make America what?
Will make citizens, American citizens vulnerable, those in other countries who are not stationed in America?
Yes, I have studied there. I'm very familiar with the politics in the U.S. Maybe more especially so from a media communication point of view. But in terms of vulnerability, the argument has been made, and there is a school of thought that believes that espousing a rhetoric or policy that seems to take on the appearance of victimizing a particular ethnic or religious group might be good fodder or groundswell or reason for opposing sections to embark, on retaliatory measures. Others argue that the actions by the U.S. president would form a propagandizing tool, and as you could fire ideological indoctrination, by terrorist groups and other such parties. So, yes, there is a potential that it could lead to aggressive and retaliatory measures from other groups, and to that extent, it does make the U.S. or its installations vulnerable in other parts of the world. Already we know that a mosque was banned in Texas. Similar thing happened in Canada. Can you imagine, if they should decide to reprisal attack, in both in the U.S. and other parts of the world? So I think there's always a certain amount of vulnerability, when it comes to this sort of issue.
But before I let go of you, what do you make of the dismissal of the Attorney General who spoke against the executive orders of President Trump?
I think that, let's look at this from a realistic point of view. She was not decided anyway, because she's democratic, appointed by a democratic president, and she was not acting position. And you know that, Jeff Sessions, I believe, the senator from Alabama, has been appointed as the AG, was doing the contribution. She was going to go anyway. So, but it is still unusual, right? It is still unusual for a career legal practitioner or an AG or a teacher, or that teacher to go directly after the president said. But I don't know that anybody is surprised. Surprised by that. Knowing who Donald Trump is, having everything, reactions in person, I don't think that is surprising at all. Maybe some people have expected that you'll temper his actions and his rhetoric when he becomes president. But I think it's in his nature. That's just what he does. This is somebody who used to hold a reality show where he became popular by firing people. Is it a surprise that he has no reticence at all in engaging in that once he becomes president? Absolutely not. So it is probably reality show comes close. My best way, in the U.S. So I don't think that's too much of a surprise. We should probably be expecting more of that, in the future.
Right. Do you have any questions for Dr. Echiskanku? That's about it. All right. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have been speaking to Dr. H.S. Kanko. He is a journalist and the author of the book Afrocentric Obama. All right, so let's come to you. You were making a point on
Agoa, that even in that, the United States realized that, look, we are giving Africa opportunity, but we have to protect our interests. And that was by Clinton, and he protected the U.S. interests. Because then the kind of things that we could send to America could not be grown in America, largely. Then we have the Millennium Challenge Pact. That, it was in the clause that we could not use $1 of that money to construct a road that leads to a rice-producing area in this country. Why? Because we imported rice from the United States, and they were protecting their rice farmers in the United States. So we could only use to construct roads that led to cocoa and pineapple growing areas, and we saw it. Is it not protection of American interest? Yes. So all U.S. presidents in the past have done so. It is not a novelty that Trump is now protecting American interests. The only thing is that this is a little overboard, because not a little, like unprecedentedly overboard, because then we have a president that has been elected, and we are in 2016. America as a system has created a lot of mess around the world. You don't just use a short time to just pretend like nothing has happened. For instance, America invaded the Iraq, and we have ISIS, as Ivan said, coming up, or even, causing a lot of destruction. Are you going to say that, well, we created a mess, but then we are leaving? It doesn't work like that. You create a mess as a state, you have to clear it. It doesn't matter which president is in office. For instance, Obama campaigned that, look, when I come to office, I will withdraw the US troops from Iraq. When he came to office, he faced the reality that, look, there's supposed to be a surge. Obama sent 30,000 US troops to Iraq so that they could at least stabilize the system before withdrawal. That was very necessary. So you don't just say, because I've promised, that is what I want. Sometimes the reality is different. And I saw the images on the monitor, and I realized that he was running the country like he's running a business. He's a businessman, and I'm not surprised, because you could not just be signing because you have to sign. You have to, the details, they said the devil is in the details. You understand? So I think that he should be at least consulting more people. He cannot run the country like, America is so big to be run like a business. It is a political system. It has a lot of effect on other people. For instance, NATO. Are you going to say you're going to just leave NATO just like that? It can't work. Because then you share intelligence with the MI6. You share intelligence with the German Secret Service. You share intelligence with Mossad and other secret services around the world. Are you going to say I'm going to just withdraw? Are you going to protect American interests by doing so? Because Americans go on, that is tourists in Egypt and other places. Are you going to abandon them? So I think Americans cannot just contain themselves within the borders of America and feel comfortable. They will move outside, and Trump should be pragmatic enough to know that, look, there are certain things I have said, and look, the campaign was populist, we all know. Populist campaign, and you won. And we've seen the world moving towards the right across the world. Or we've seen it, we are seeing it in France. Now the Socialist Party in France, we don't see the Social Party winning the next election. We've seen what happened in Britain, that is Brexit. It was unprecedented, we didn't expect it, it happened. They are all right-wing activities or happenings. And that is what is happening. But then when you come into office, you become more pragmatic. And so I think that you should move toward pragmatism and stop this bombastic.
One other thing that could make things very difficult for the Americans is their stance on Israel and its relations with the Arabs. Right now, when you look at Trump's leaning, he leans towards Benjamin Netanyahu's kind of thinking. You know, he will support the making of East Jerusalem the capital of Israel. And you know what that means to the Arab countries. So far, it seems he's silent on the expansion of Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. That will also anger the Arabs. And so, just saying we don't want any Arabs in our country will not solve the problem. It will take a lot of negotiations. It will take a lot of soft thinking, not hard thinking, to stabilize things. If not, things will degenerate. It could be worse. But as I said, these are early days yet. Let's see what this ban would do, the results. The review of the ban and the follow-ups will tell us where Trump will be headed next. I think it's too early for us to even.
But the accounts have a saying that Agrobe son is piano po.
Yeah, I grow with there.
Let's know better.
I saw them.
The wailings of my brother tells you, for me, it's an evidence of our over-dependency on the US.
Not at all.
Look, go and read about the foreign policies of almost all the superpower nations. China, Russia, all of them. They have even much more terrible clauses in their regulations than America has. Why is everybody crying because America decided to enforce this? Why?
Why are the others not enforcing this?
Because their countries are not besieged like America has been.
Like Germany?
No, their places have not been attacked and invaded, internally in court, like America has been. Everybody wakes up and is going to America. Everybody wakes up and is going to America. Everybody wants some restoration, some settlement in America. And that's affecting them. They live there, it's affecting them. You cannot go and do the kind of things you do in America and in Russia. You can't go and do it there. China, you can't go and do those things there. But they are all nations. They are living. Isn't it incumbent on them to also fight terrorism? When did it become America's burden alone to fight terrorism? Why? Because the world is dependent on them. That's why we are crying. If China decided to do this, nobody will care. But they are also a super trade nation, aren't they? So why America?
You see,
President has come and said, I'm protecting America for America. What's the big deal?
See, my brother, historically,
yes,
American policy has been a policy of intervention, using trade to gain an upper hand, using business to make a way. And this has hurt a lot of interests and countries. So such countries would also try to find ways of equalizing things. I mean, it's...
We'll just leave you to
Yeah,
go.
that is the word. That is how it
that's
is.
the problem. We accuse them of
it's not as if...
and they say, now I'm leaving. You have a problem with that. If I stay, you have a problem. I'm leaving to protect my own. You have a problem.
No, if you've read mine, if you've read mine, and I have not put it right yet, and you say you are leaving when you are the cause of the wreckage in my house, I'll hold you by the pants.
But Evans, let's talk about vulnerability. You covered the you were there on election night. Vulnerability of U.S. citizens outside U.S. and even in the United States, because I was privy to some of the information you gave when you shared your experience when somebody was like, "Oh my God, Trump is winning," what and all of that. Yeah. Let's talk about vulnerability. How vulnerable are U.S. citizens, even within and outside of U.S.?
Well, I mean, if you're a U.S. citizen living outside, especially in one of those Arab countries, you'll be worried. You should. I mean, you become easy target for those who want to retaliate against Trump, and there's no way they can get close to the White House, so they'll take it out on you. So yeah, of course, those outside will worry. Even those inside will have a concern also, because of the concern, the fear. Just last week, the Muslim Association of America, I've forgotten is an appropriate name, they were complaining about a mosque in a part of the U.S. that had an issue, an attack of a sort, separate from what we saw in Canada. This a different one that happened in the U.S. And there was a concern that is possibly linked to all the anti-Islamic sentiments whipped up by the Trump actions that he's taking. And I remember when I was in the US, I remember there was a huge fear about what might happen to Black Americans and people of African origin who are in the US at that time, because of, again, all the sentiments, racial sentiments that he had whipped up. People in America, blacks, I remember the group that I went with from around the world covering elections, the foreign journalists, the blacks around them were concerned about going to areas seen as Republican-dominated territories because of the fear of being victimized by the white Republicans. Because a lot of people who support Trump were seen as white supremacists. In the orientation they're not favoring of blacks. So if you're a Black American living in the U.S. right now, you'll be absolutely terrified. We saw what happened in the bush when Katrina hit, when the sense of neglect of the huge areas where blacks were the majority. People think it's going to be worse under Trump, really. And so if you're in America, you're black American living in America, you'll be absolutely vulnerable right now, feeling absolutely vulnerable. And it's not for any reason why you see the black, you know, celebrities coming out to attack him and criticize him quite severely. I was an American. I saw people who wanted to leave. You know, there was a very popular case in Washington where a very famous Washington lawyer was telling us that he's already planning to take his family out and stay outside for a while and see how things pan out in America before they come back. I don't know whether he was joking, but I met people who were actually serious about that. I remember the day I was leaving America, there were people in a queue with me in Washington airport. I was asking them, we were just chatting, like, the elections are over, the man has won. I'm going deliberately because of what has happened, because he's won. They no longer feel like America has lost. They feel America has lost its values. They don't want to associate. They want to leave and look back in and see how things go. So a lot of people will be vulnerable, absolutely, across the world. Americans who live outside and even inside, we're feeling vulnerable right now.
Tay?
Yep.
Your take?
Well, I agree with him. Definitely. Americans outside America, we're vulnerable. Because Trump is going to make things a little bit worse for them. Per his outlook, his utterances, his policy that he's envisaging could only serve to alienate Americans, make them vulnerable wherever they are. You understand? Because looking at him closely and looking at the Republican Party, even though there are people in the Republican Party who are against him, if you trace the history of the policies of the Republican Party, he's not departed too much from it. Whenever Republicans are in power, there are wars in the world.
Wow.
It has happened.
I think this hysteria has also been, if you like, been given the wheel to travel more than it deserves because of the way the media has approached this Trump directives and all those things. Really, you know, there were concerns that if Trump won the elections, blacks were going to be under attack and all those things. And I do not foresee all those things. I think
but those fears were real, though.
They were real, well, because of his utterance and stuff like that. But after the elections, I do not see how all those threats and, you know, fears are going to be materialized. I don't see how that's going to be possible. Some of them were escalated, if you like, exaggerated by the media. And if you watch, you know, American media right now, you will know that there are some people who are going to be in opposition because Trump, major ones who are in opposition right now because Trump is in election.
I don't think it's possible to exaggerate Trump. Trump himself is an exaggeration. But you can't exaggerate Trump. He's a walking exaggeration. Everything he says and does is exaggerated.
You see,
this is a president who talks about the number of people who turn out in his inauguration. Very unnecessary. You address CIA agents and he will be talking about that.
Yeah.
How many people attended? People are lying about how many people attended my inauguration and it is wrong. And what is that?
Yeah, listen, it's true that Trump has engaged in so many trivialities. That's a fact.
And America is
in the
too
history
big
of
for
America.
trivialities.
But whether we like
United
it or
States
not,
of America,
whether you like it or not, the people of America decided that at this point in time, this is the man we want to lead us. Okay, and I think that they knew his virtues, they knew his values.
But why the protests?
And again, there's an opposition. Of course, there's an opposition.
Majority voted against.
There's an opposition.
That's one thing.
And so if they want,
but how come he won?
a sustained
the US system. Because of the electoral system.
Listen,
you know.
if you see, the Democrats must just keep quiet and be there. You see, the thing is this: if they want to keep or maintain a sustained opposition to Trump, they can do it all day, because they have the numbers to do it. But that doesn't change the fact that the man who won legitimately is the president, and the people of America who believed in him then, I believe still believe in him.
Yeah.
They knew what he stood for. He said he was going to do. If you're a Trump supporter, you'll be disappointed if he didn't do all the things he's doing now. Because you voted for him based on the things he said.
That's one.
Do you understand? These are the things he said that he was going to do.
See.
And Americans felt that, you see, it's easy for all of us here to discuss these issues because we are not directly affected by what Trump is doing. Do you understand? It's easy, and we are discussing because we feel that once, sometimes.
No, but Kwame, I also think it's easy on the campaign trail, saying things that will resonate with the people. But when the reality dawns on you, when you are in power and you know how things run.
Whose reality? He's managing the affairs of America now. He's looking at how things are, and he's telling you that, per my own understanding of our economy, the direction I want to take this country to, these are the steps, these are the approaches I want to use. Allow me to use them. If he faults the law, go to court and sue him. But if not, and he's in line with what he wants to do, he has a mandate, 4-year mandate. He will be judged after all these things he's doing. Let him do it. Let's not frustrate him. I mean, he doesn't care about us. We here, he doesn't care. The people of America, it's their verdict that matters, not us here who are screaming on top of our voices. Really, what are we doing?
Kwame, you know something? Over the years, American leadership in certain spheres of international life, free trade, liberty, human rights, and others, have really shaped the way the world looks at certain things.
They are key advocates.
Sure. Really? And then you get a president whose utterances and policies seem to go contrary to that. What that could do is to make the rest of the world lose confidence in those things. If we have the World Trade Organization and others which fight against trade protectionism, and we have a key champion of that kind of policy now trying to backtrack, what that tells the rest of the world is, oh, that thing was used just to make some others benefit. Look, if we are not careful and some of these Trump policies take hold, there could be a dislocation in so many things in this world, including trade. Because as we speak, if Ghana decides that we are not going to allow any country to or people to import certain things which will affect some of our industries, take it like textiles. If we decide that we're going to put a lot of place some how do you call them, levies or taxes or quotas or whatever, it's going to affect certain countries. We could be taken to the World Trade Organization. As we speak, if the Americans decide to do something like that, if you take them to the World Trade Organization, the chances that you won't succeed are very great. So if we are not careful and some of these policies take hold, then we are looking at a world trade system that could be shaky. The Europeans are not very happy with Donald Trump. His neighbors in the Americas are not very comfortable. Because look, over the years, that is how it has been. He cannot change it in 4 years. And he can't change it in 100 days. It will take time.
No, Becky, listen. On this argument, if America stood for all these values, if America was a standard bearer in all these good things we are saying about them, as my brother started his listing with, then why then did we in the past accuse them of all the things we used to accuse them of? If they are, mind you, the recent EIU report has rated them a flawed democracy, from the standard bearer to a flawed democracy. That's it. But I think we are all being hypocritical towards America. If we are now seeing all the good things America stood for before Donald came to office, then why then we now kept saying that America is a cheat, America is a big brother who's sweeping everybody in line, we don't need America? You don't need America. We used to say we don't need America, they should get out of our space. Now somebody says, I'm getting us out of your space, now keep your affairs. That one is a problem. I think we are all being hypocritical towards America. The expression Theresa made to comment and condemn Donald Trump for what he's doing and all that, they have their space, they should keep his space. He's protecting America. You see, it's as if because we all depend on America somehow, we are all afraid of what is happening.
And they also get something in return somehow.
You get something.
It is not 100% dependence.
See, okay.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
Fine. So I'm saying that
they take from us, we take from them.
When you come to the table, come protecting your country, I'll come protecting my country.
He never said that.
What's the crime?
He said he's protecting his country.
His country.
No, so when you are coming, you also come protect your country. What's the big deal?
Anyway,
I agree with him. I mean, America is a country like anybody else. I mean, forget about it being a superpower. First and foremost, it's a country, and every country will protect. It's a sovereign country, must protect themselves. So I don't see. I'm excited by saying that point. I don't see why people should complain about America being looking inwards. I mean, people say when America starts looking inwards, the world goes. Something bad happens in the world because we expect them to be the world police. Well, guess what? Yeah. Other people should stand up to the plate. Yeah. I mean, we can't expect them to always be there. The guy is there for 4 years. Possibly might be a one-term president. Somebody else might come and change the status quo and bring back. For me, we should give him the benefit of the doubt. He campaigned. He won. He has 4 years. Let's see what he does with the 4 years. He started. He's really shook up the system. So people are wondering. But this won't last. I don't think this is going to last for the last because reality will set in at some point.
Exactly.
Because he will necessarily have to go to the Senate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And start negotiating with the Democrats and the Republicans to pass his budget, etc. So he will need that. And once that starts, that is a lot of the things he's done. In fact, everything he's done so far by the stroke of the pen. But when we start getting onto the nitty-gritties that we talked about funding the war, when he's not getting all the money, he has to go to Congress and get the Democrats and Republicans.
Yes, majority there too, and
that's
so
true.
They believe it.
No, but we know in America you might have a majority, but the Republicans can still vote.
There are a lot of opposition in the Republican.
So when that starts, and he needs to now start wheeling and dealing and negotiating, reality will set in. When reality sets in, he will tone down a bit. I mean, now he needs to start by the people galvanize his base and get into. But reality will set in very soon. He needs to start negotiating with the rest of the world.
Very soon.
To achieve some of the things he said he will do. And then when that happens, he'll tone down.
Right. Kofi in Medina says, Americans have always been vulnerable with or without President Trump. So what at all is the big deal? Has that been the case? Kofi. This one is clearly, America is anti-Muslim. We all heard what President Trump said. Kindly add your name. That will that will help us a lot. Mr. Trump's ban on certain Muslim countries is far much better than some past American presidents who invaded other countries like Iraq, Libya, etc. and accumulated such hatred for America. You also didn't add your name. My name is Obed from Dansoman. Trump is up to something. Let's watch and follow him keenly. I'm enjoying your show. Thank you very much, Obed from Dansoman. Good morning. Evans, let's support Donald Trump. Look at the bad policies Obama made. Legalizing lesbianism, homosexuality, arresting Christians who do not support lesbians. When you go to Somalia, look at what they are doing to their own people. Killing Christians, Boko Haram, raping young children. Evans, do you want that? You are my role model from Akoto, Asafo, Kumasi, Akoto. This one goes straight to Evans. Kwabna says, I'm an air conditioning and refrigeration engineer. I still stand by it. Africans can do it. There are most presidents in Africa, including our very own president, late President Nkrumah, who said Africa can do it. So why should we continue relying on America? Africa must also look at its own policies and rethink about itself. Okay, Kwabna, an air conditioning and refrigeration engineer. Thank you. Fidel, let's take a final round. And let's see. Yesterday, I think there's a recent poll I read online yesterday on the Daily Telegraph newspaper in the US that says that lots of Americans support the move by President Trump.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Yeah,
is that really the case?
I read that too.
Yeah.
You see, there's something about what is happening now. And I told you about the world tilting to the right. And we also have every country, the workforce in every country trying to protect their own so that they don't allow foreigners to come and take their jobs. Now, the support for this policy or this order is not necessarily its foreign or foreign policy implications. Because Americans, if you go into America, you realize that they don't really care about what happens outside America. People are very ignorant. We met students who were doing exchange programs with Ghanaian students, and then we realized that you talk to them about Americans, realize that sometimes you live here and you know more about even their country than they do.
That's true.
And they don't care about what happens outside their territory. You understand? I don't know if Trump have ever visited any country in Africa. I doubt.
Oh, yes.
I doubt.
Well, no.
I doubt.
Trump
I doubt because as the time Bush took office, he had never visited Africa in his life. Yeah. So you know all these things. And sometimes when you go to America and you talk of Africa, people see it as a country other than a continent with many countries. So you talk of Ghana, they think there is a city in Africa. No, people have that. So there's this kind of thing. So mostly when the support will not be because they know the foreign policy implications of his actions, but rather it is because they think that it will protect jobs and it will prevent crime within their neighborhoods. That is what it is. So mostly we have to take it in that context. Now, why would people support it? Because then if you go to the border states like Arizona, where the Mexicans often get into America, Texas, California, and other places, people think that, look, these Mexicans just come in, take our jobs under disguise, that sometimes underground factories, they work there, and then we don't get jobs. But then, sometimes I wonder, when Trump was giving his inaugural address, he said America is carnage. That's the word he used for America. But we also have to look at where President Obama took America from. You see, the issue about lesbianism and gayism and other things, as my brother said, you know, sometimes we Africans, we are socially conservative. I understand. So sometimes we judge Obama through that lenses. That, well, we are social conservative. We don't believe in same-sex rights and other things. So sometimes we judge him without looking at what he came to meet and where he took America. When Obama came into office, the American economists did not know what will happen the next day. When immediately Obama took, they didn't know what will happen to the American economy the following day. So they were advising him. He was taking a lot of decisions. For example, the automobile industry, he had to intervene, salvage it, and it's now working. Look at the unemployment rate at the time he took office, and look at when he was living. It was below 5%, better than the Bush years. You understand? So I think that we should not let it look like, well, Trump came into office with America destroyed, and then he's trying to rebuild America. What would he have said of America in 2008 if he had taken over from Bush? You understand? So I think that, as Ivan said, when the reality dawns on him, he will have to slow his steps and then embrace reality and take very pragmatic decisions that will benefit the Americans. For instance, globalization cannot be stopped, and therefore these trade barriers, unnecessary trade barriers that he's trying to create, will not help.
Kwame, finally for you.
I don't think any reality with Donald Trump. I'm telling you, he's living his own reality. When
That
he
is
was campaigning, we all felt that if he became the president, reality would dawn on him. He's a president, and that reality has not set in.
Like the Mexican War.
When even before the GOP went for their Congress to elect him, we thought that if he became the candidate, reality would dawn on him. He began to act checkeredly. He's never done that. He's still living his world. So I do not expect any reality to dawn on Donald Trump. Again, the point my brother made about he not coming to Africa, and so probably he's not having the perspective of Africa, and the things, it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. America is so big that if you want to be a president, I'll spend time traveling across the various states than be coming to visit Africa. Who will lament to me? Do you understand? Let's tropicalize this thing that's happening in America. Even in Ghana here, when our brothers from Nigeria started coming in, people started complaining. Oh, they are coming, they are taking over jobs, corporate world, they are taking over. Even domestically, they are taking over girls. We said that.
People said that.
Yes.
You didn't hear that.
No, the way you said it's like you're talking for yourself.
See, we are talking about they are taking over our jobs. Telecom, they are taking over, they are taking banks. Even home, we said they are taking over our women. Yeah. We made those complaints. Even in Ghana here, we made those complaints. Let alone America. Do you understand? So I am not surprised that the majority of Americans support him because they live there. They know how it feels if your country is invaded by visitors and foreigners. So let him deal with them the way he wants to deal with. He has 4 years. I think we should allow him.
Well, I would say these are early days yet. He's not been in office for even 2 months. Let's see what happens. Let's see how all these executive orders pans out in the next 6 months. I don't think things will be the same. He will have to face that reality someday, and he will have to negotiate with his political players in America and on the world stage. I believe so. These are early days yet.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, every president, if you notice, they'll make mistakes when they begin. Even our own current administration. I'm sure if you ask the honest MPP guy right now in government, they'll tell you in the last few days they've made some mistakes that they wish they had not made. Trump will make his mistakes, and I think he's made a lot of them. If you look at the orders he signed, he's amended the wordings a bit of the actual ban, because they're now trying to water down. If you have a green card, you can now go in. Yeah. Initially, when it was first announced, green cards were detained. So that tells you that reality is setting in for him. Even in that order, he's now watering it down a bit from what it was originally meant to be. So clearly for me, and I will repeat, he's not had he's not been in a position yet where he has to go to Congress and try and negotiate a deal. He wrote a book, The Art of the Deal. He will have to make a deal. And once in making deals, you need to give up something. What it means is some of the things he had promised, he'll probably realize that to make that deal, I need to give up some of the things I promised. It's just the way politics works. That's why governments come into power and say, well, I did promise, but now the reality says I can't do it. And so I'm pretty expecting him very much when he starts his Senate confirmation hearings of their nominees. Some of them are having a tough time. And he's already trying to reach out to the Democrats and say, allow the guys to go through. That is a reality setting in. That, yes, you are the executive president, and America runs an executive system. You can use a pen to change stuff, but when it comes down to releasing state resources, you have to go to Congress and get the approval. That's where the challenge will set in, and that's what we'll see at the true Trump, how he deals with that. It will be interesting. I think it's very interesting for the world. And
when that happens, we'll be here discussing it as well.
Probably.
Right, so I have been in here with Evans Mensah, who is the head of the political desk at Joy FM. Taikicha is the editor-in-chief, Radio Ghana. Kwame Danso Echampo, the ever-famous, is with Star FM, and Fidel Amachiwusu is an international relations analyst. And I was glad having all four men, strong men, here to discuss this matter. But let me take this one quickly. This one says, please, let us be realistic and stop being politically correct. Let us call a spade a spade. This behavior of perpetually pretending that jihad terrorism has no connection to Islam is wrong. Eastern Europe has seen the light. Israel saw the light after 1948. Germany's Angela Merkel and Western Europe have failed to see the light. America under Trump is now seeing the light. Long live Trump. You shouldn't criticize Islam or else they will turn into terrorists. And as we know, terrorism has nothing to do with Islam. What's a contradiction? Trump banned... Oh. I think your message is very long, but at least we get a sense of it. Unfortunately, you didn't add your name. Americans voted for Trump based on his campaign promises, and now he is fulfilling his promises. Please add your name. That will do us a lot of good. This one says, Trump will increase African problems, so let him just stay where he is. Right, this is what I'll leave you with. This one says, remember your dreams and fight for them. You must know that what you want from life, there is just one thing that makes your dream become impossible. The fear of failure. And this one is from Paulo Cello. My name is Rebecca. We're partnered by Health West Ghana and Ashrifia Ware. And the production was by Max Sesu, Celestine Avi, and Phyllis Kofi. Bye for now. A lively panel of journalists with comprehensive knowledge in all fields of endeavor, be it politics, health, business, sports, entertainment, information, communication technology, gender, law, international affairs and diplomacy, and a host of others will objectively dissect the matter of contention. On Reporters Roundtable, fairness, objectivity, factuality, and non-partisanship is our hallmark. It's the Double RT Show with Rebecca Ewa. This and every other Thursday from 10 to 12 GMT. Make a date with us. The Reporters Roundtable. All angles, all sides.